Yeah, welcome to this webinar. Very happy to be with you today to discuss this important topic on DORA regarding incident management and reporting. So about the requirements, DORA requirements, and in practice, how can we handle that? So my name is Jean-Hubert Antoine. I'm the CTO, Chief Technology Officer of Thot IT Solution, and deeply working on DORA. And I have the privilege to be with our strategic partner, Rapid7 representative, Barry. So Barry, if you can introduce yourself shortly.
Yes, all welcome in this webinar. So my name is Barry Rijnbeek. I'm based in Netherlands, and my current job at Rapid7 is pre-sales. Do now for 3 years, but in the past I built up a SOC for a big MSP company. And my early days being a pen tester. So in today's session, I will just do a live demonstration how our SOC will operate and perform things.
Thanks a lot. So what's the program for today? We will start with by covering incident management requirements, which is between Pillar 1 and Pillar 2 of DORA. So Pillar 1 is more about risk management, but as well the measures to cope with the risks. And Pillar 2, which is incidents classification and reporting. So the notification will be the second topic, how to notify incidents, major incidents to the regulator. And then we'll go through the solutions of Rapid7 to help us to comply with those requirements and more. So Barry will go through a use case and a demo of their platform. And if we have time, of course, there is room for Q&A, question and answer at the end. Don't hesitate if you have questions to put your questions in the comments, and we will try to answer, of course. Okay, so yeah, before going into that, shortly at Thot IT, what do we do for the participants who don't know us yet? So we are working on DORA mainly and outsourcing on compliance, but not only, as well on the governance, on the risk management, on the filing of the outsourcing file and DORA files. And we have as well security services. We are acting as virtual CISO or CISO as a service and proposing security services and security solutions like the one from Rapid7. We are active on ICT governance as well, change management, project management, software development lifecycle and things like that. Business continuity, BCP, BIA, DRP, and a lot of training and awareness on DORA, on security, on outsourcing, on cloud, and so on. So Barry, could you introduce a bit the Rapid7 solutions?
Yeah, sure. So Rapid7 exists now already for 25 years this year. So we started in 2000. So our headquarters is based in Boston, but and for Europe it's in London based. So people know Rapid7 might be from the past for vulnerability management, but we do already for around 20 years. And also we are quite famous about our Metasploit, which is our pen testing tool. It's open source to the community, but also we sell it. So we evolved the last couple of years quite a lot. And in this slide, I will just show you we changed our portfolio in two directions. So exposure management, so everything to do with risk management on cloud, on-prem, on web applications, etc. We call it on the module exposure management. That's something we will just, in another webinar, we'll more dive in this one. In today's session, we'll talk about the detection response and how this links to the DORA. And with detection response, we see like tools like managed detection response. So our SOC offering, the tool next-gen SIEM, threat intelligence information, and also how forensics are working with our tool. And that's an open source tool, Velociraptor, but also it's part of our products. And what you see is on the platform, we're just ingesting data from a lot of other sources. So we're not keeping it to our own sources, but the more sources you can bring to our platform, the better it can function. And And we'll see later today in the demonstration more about this one. You are on mute, Jean-Hubert.
Thank you. Sorry. So yeah, to quickly set up the scene related to DORA. So DORA, there are 5 pillars. Those are the 4 main ones. So ICT risk management, ICT incident management, classification and reporting, testing, the 3rd pillar, which will be the topic of our next webinar in June, the 10th of June, and 3rd-party risk management. In fact, this topic is between Pillar 1 and Pillar 2. Let me explain you that. So if you look at Pillar 1, it's the risk management framework. The different articles are already talking about incident management, especially Article 10, the detection of the incidents. Article 11, the response and the recovery, with 12 as well, and 13, the lesson learned, learning and evolving on the security incidents, and as well the communication on the Article 14. So what is really nice is that with Rapid7 and our partnership, you can cover big parts of those regulatory requirements of DORA. To go through a sample of incident management framework or process, the first step, very important and very challenging, by the way, is the detection. A lot of organizations don't detect incidents because they don't have the right tools, they don't have the right process in place, and it's about that. This is that we will cover today. So monitoring systems to detect anomalies, like unusual activities from users, from the network, and be able, from user perspective, to be able to notify, to raise the alert, on the incidents. Challenging as well is to classify them, especially with DORA. The requirements, we will see that, are a bit complex. Next step is the response. So once you have detected incidents, you need to respond. You need a team. You need tools to be able to do the investigation, the forensic that Barry will talk about, and the communication plans after. So the mitigation is important as well, like to block, for example, an infected machine, and Rapid7 can help on that as well, block authorized users and things like that. So really limit the scope of the attack, a very important step. Reporting, which is usually done in parallel, because there are so much work to be able to do, to classify, to do the investigation on the business impact, and as well prepare the notification, because this is a huge job and time is running. And of course, there is recovery and remediation. I'm skipping those steps, very important to the back to normal and to recover from the situation, from the incidents, and the remediation. So the measures you will implement, not for the incidents not to happen again. And then the lesson learned from the incidents, the post-incident review, where you need to analyze what has happened. Did we correctly handle these incidents? Did we have the right tools, the right training in place, the right measures to protect, the right training for employees, and so on. Yeah, but now on the classification part, classification and reporting, the classification step is very, very challenging. You will understand why just after. So this is in DORA Pillar 2, so Article 9. Sorry, no, not Article 9. In fact, how to determine if an incident is major. This is the most challenging part. Is it major according to DORA? You cannot use your definition. You have to stick to the definition of DORA on that. The first criteria is this incident impacting critical service? That's the top box. If it's a yes, then is it any successful malicious and unauthorized access? That means you have someone malicious internally, externally, which is accessed on an unauthorized manner to a system, access to data, and so on. In this case, it's major. You don't have to ask yourself the question of the impacts. By default, I would say, in this scenario, it's major. But then if it's not matching this scenario, you have to check a few criteria to see if some of them are matching. If 2 or plus criteria are matching, is meeting the DORA requirements, then it's major as well. What are those criteria? So it's clients, financial counterparts, or daily transaction affected, plus more than 10% of the clients, more than 30% of the counterparts, or plus 10% or more of the daily transaction. This is very difficult, by the way, very challenging to assess. Data loss. Is there some data loss? Is there a reputation and impact? That means it is being seen externally to the press, for example, to the media, or to the regulator. The duration of the incidents, is it more than 2 hours if it's a critical or important function, or more than 24 hours if it's not a critical one, impacting, in fact, downtime of critical function. The geographical spread, so if it's impacting more than 2 countries. The economical impact, so if the financial loss is expected loss is more than 100,000 euro. And then if you have minor incidents that are recurring, then if it's at least twice on 6 months, then it could be considered as a major incident as well. Or, I mean, this criteria is matching. So we have 2 or more of those criteria, then it's a major incident, should be considered as a major incident. What you should do then, if you have classified that as a major incident, so time is running, by the way, you need to do an initial notification within 24 hours after being aware of the incident, so after the detection, or 4 hours after having classified this incident as major. So it could be less than 24 hours. For example, if 2 hours after the incident you have classified it as major, you realize, okay, this is probably major for us, then you don't have 24 hours, you have 4 hours. That's for the initial notification. And then you have an intermediate notification report to send within 72 hours after the initial notification. And then a final report, you have 1 month after the last intermediate report. So you can send many intermediate reports. For the cyber threats, when it's not an incident, you detected the threats, but you don't have an impact. So it's not an incident for you, but you said, okay, this is a significant threat, a new attack that you are seeing. You are encouraged on voluntary basis, to notify that to the regulator as well. But it's voluntary. So very challenging to assess, all the criteria we saw just before within 4 hours. So are the IT responsible people or security responsible people in charge of the incidents, do they have the I would say, the footprint, the business footprint of the incidents? Do they have the knowledge or the access to those kind of information? This should be foreseen. Very, very challenging. So now, what should be notified when there is a major incident? This is the initial notification. So you're not expected to have the details of the root cause and not the details of the impacts, but still you need to provide with some data at least, and the criteria you think are triggered. So that's for the initial notification. And then you see for the intermediary report, that you should send within 72 hours, then you need all the details of the impact. How many clients, what is the geographical spread, how the timing, and so on and so on, financial loss if they are, and so on. So you see there are a lot of information to provide, very challenging. And then, so that's for 72 hours. And then the final report within 1 month, you are expected to have detected or established the root cause. So what causes the incident? And for that, you need the forensic investigation that could take long, it could be exhaustive, should be exhaustive. Yeah, the mainly the root cause is required here on top of the other information. No, so now let's see in real life with Barry. We have prepared. So Barry have prepared a scenario. So Barry, we'll skip to the next slide.
Yeah, so before we start with the real life scenario, just first slide about what is the service as Rapid7 is delivering, and also where is the DORA articles are taking place of it. So what this offering is called Managed Threat Complete. We have a full chain, what we all responsibility on our side. And sometimes we see there's a difficulty in different kind of MDR flavors. So what we say from the beginning, so it starts with reducing the risk, so it's vulnerability management, till the end, till the resilience, where we do the lessons learned part. We will take care of that, and together with our customers. So if you're starting in the first one, reduce risk, is just maintaining, is make sure all the risk you have, try to maintain them as soon as possible. So the less risk you have, the less investigations we need to fire. So then with Article 9, see gathering the data is just with our SIM solution. We're collecting all the data and security events from your security tools, from your endpoints, firewalls, and so on. That's related to Article 9. And then with the all correlation of all the data, we match them and we'll make like useful data from it from security perspective, as Article 10. And then it will start firing alerts. And those alerts will be picked up by our SOC. So our SOC is based in different kind of regions. So for Europe, it's in Dublin and in Prague. And we have a SOC in the US and in Melbourne. So we just follow the sun in principle. And they will triage all the alerts for you. And then will notify you if something is urgent or some assistance needed. But we'll do as much as I can on our side. So if we see it's definitely a ransomware, for example, we will quarantine a user or quarantine an asset and then notify you about what happened there. But of course, if it's a critical system, we will always call you directly and make sure together if we can do any action, yes or no. That's something we discussed before we start the project. So now already in the contained phase, but then starts the more interesting thing is also for the DORA is required just to write down a report within a few hours and then a final report after a certain amount of time. So what we'll do is collecting all the forensic data and writing the report. Also, it can be used in the court, so that detailed level it is. And then do afterwards a resilience session together, just to understanding a lesson learned. What's the cause of the issue and how we can prevent this kind of breaches or attacks next time. So this is the full chain what we will do in cooperation with our customers. So in the situation I will show after the slides in this real life simulation is that a case where we have a customer has already some phishing alerts. So it's like reactive, proactive things. So on the left side of the wheel you see. We also look on the dark web and deep web, or if they're already trying to mention things about your company. Are they creating phishing domains which are similar like your domain? So they are trying to do any phishing attacks or planning to do. Or if they're already posting credential data. So maybe some of your employees has used as work account on a public site and that's getting breached. But credential can be reused, and if it's the same as the company credentials, then it's getting an issue or getting more risk. And on the right side is the things where we do, so everything is reactive. So then we do collecting all the data based on your endpoint data, network data, on the cloud data, and also with the telemetry of the users. And based on AI, we make decisions if it's an alert, yes or no. And as we're going to see in the live demonstration is that I will just do the full stack of the flow and also explain what our SOC is doing in which steps. So we can look a bit behind the curtain to see what our SOC is doing. And go to the next slide. So this is the scenario what I will just will show you in the scenario. So it's first based, so you see the numbers, the T numbers, that are MITRE attack numbers in this case. So we're getting victim identifier information. So we see they are trying to create a phishing domain. Then they're creating a website with a similar logo and looks like a company domain where they can log in with credentials, username and password, and they will just intercept all the information. Then later on, we see that this domain has been reached by similar systems in the company. And then on, we see the issue getting more worse, that they see that someone's trying on those affected systems. They are getting PowerShell commands, implementing CobbleStrike, which is an active communication program for attackers to make sure they have full control of the systems. And we just do the full scenario about this one, and I will show you and explain every step. So if you have any questions during the session, always feel free to add your question in the comments, and we try to answer them. So again, this is the flow, and what we have in our SOC, we have different kind of people, different kind of roles. That's good to know how this works in our backend. So on the left side, you see the customer advisor. So that's the person who is always in contact with the customers. So it's the link between our technical team and the customer. So he knows your company. He knows about what kind of regulation you need to apply. So make sure our reporting are aligned to that one. Then we have a threat intelligence analyst, but is always looking to data is being published to the dark web or deep web and clear web, which is related to your company. And it's are the first indicators to a breach. And they can notify already, we see this kind of thing happening. And that's why we start with the demonstration. So I will share my screen. And this is something what the threat intelligence analysts were looking for. So they show, in this case, all the data. We see already there's some data leakage information, probably some VIP users are mentioning by social media or anything else. But I'll just stick to the flow of this demonstration. So there was an alert raised a phishing domain. And what we see is similar to, like in this case, it was like BMW as an example we used. And we see there's a BMW4.com raised domain. And there's also a login portal created. So with using the company logos, so it definitely is a targeted attack. They are planning or also already active in this case. So what we normally can do, that threat intelligence analyst will just validate if it's still active, and they respond back to the customer and tell you this is what you're currently seeing. You can just give you a recommendation just to advise your internal employees or block this kind of domain in your firewall or any other kind of solution. But to show you the entire flow, we just, in this case, we don't react anything on it. Normally we do, but otherwise we cannot discuss the next steps. What also the threat intelligence is seeing on my screen. So if you come back to my screen, then we see as well that this domain has some malicious links, what we know. So the base on our intelligence we're gathering around the world about attack vectors. And that's more concerning. So yes, it looks to be a phishing attack, but there's definitely a link to an attack group. And we see it's in here, it's attack group, but is using normally CobbleStrike. So this is more like, yes, we are dealing with people which are trying to do bad things with the company. So in this case, they definitely put it to a higher alert. So make sure this is definitely something you act soon. So now we go back to the workflow. So we now have seen the step for the threat intelligence analyst and moving to another one to the managed detection response analyst. So that's the SOC analyst in our SOC. So they will be informed about the threat intelligence analyst, about what we already discovered. And they will definitely also look in the logs if the customer already have maybe any kind of context to it. So what we're now doing is when I share my screen, So this is what the the MDR analyst is looking for. So they collect all the data from the users, the events processing, and trigger alarms, data from agents. And so all the data will be stored in this SIEM solution for 13 months, so 13 months. Because we also can do threat hunts back in the day to see if already when the breach earlier started before we, for example, alert triggered. Or sometimes there's a 0-day discovered. And then you can just look back in time if already maybe this customer has been part of that breach or they tried to abuse that 0-day. So to get data in the platform, we use the data collection for it. And all the event sources, doesn't matter if it's Active Directory or any cloud sources, firewall data, and so on, can be easily onboarded. So it's like a wizard already. So by just clicking on the logos, you can onboard the data logs from it. And then we start making detection rules on top of that. So detection rules is something that's out of the box, so you don't have to create yourself. And they will be maintained by Rapid7 as well. So nowadays we have more than 2,000 detection rules. If you look what has been added the last 30 days, you see there is around 31 new rules being applied. So it's growing quite fast. And also the modification of the rules is happening quite a lot, just to fine tune and make sure we don't have less false positive information. So in the last 30 days, half of the rules has been fine tuned or currently customized or optimized the rules. And all those rules are also mapped to the MITRE attack matrix just to show in which phase which rule has effective. So everything wears a green light. That means there is ability or at least one rule available. And this also reflects to the DORA. So what is the MDR analyst currently seeing in this case? So just to make it easier, instead of all the rules for this demonstration, I will make sure that I've assigned it to myself, the specific one. And we see here there's an alarm. It's currently a medium one. Where I say there's a suspicious phishing domain created. And if we look in more in the detail, alert details, and we see information about the alarm, also where it's coming from. This is the detection rule, what we use to identify this one. And on the right side, we'll see highlighted to make it easy for analysts, but it can be enabled to on or off. What is concerning in this logs? So this is logs from received from the customer in this case, and this is the coming the product, and also suspicious phishing domain, and the domain itself. So now our MDR analyst knows about this domain. There's something suspicious, and we see there's a hit on it, and we find out on which systems it was. So in this case, we see on the right side it was currently only on one system, so victim 4. And the user related to the system is an administrator user. So beside information on this side, we see the alarm, but there are also associated events, and that's quite interesting. So we collect more things around this event already by default. So we see there also happened some PowerShell downloads at the moment, which is really concerning. But also data has been exfiltrated to a Dropbox, more concerning. A suspicious process has been started from the documents folder and so on. And there's a local lateral movement happened to this account from a specific IP. So they try to connect to multiple machines. So this definitely is something our SOC will say we need to quarantine this machine if they're seeing this. And they probably escalate to a critical one or high. So what they can do to invest more data from that one, they can also ask our endpoint, give me all the users has been access to this machine and maybe the DNS cache and so on. So now there will be a request to the endpoint just to collect all the data what we requested for forensic already. So this is the first step for forensic information collection. And start collecting the data. So in a few minutes we get it in there. And also what ability can be done from the SOC analyst. Also can here start doing a lookup, for example, pmw4.com. And we say, show me everything in the last, let's say, 14 days. And we quite easily see if there any hits are there. Or maybe in the last, I'll probably make a typo on this one. So what we're doing is, we need to select them all. So we're looking at all our DNS data. And we see there's multiple times has been accessed this kind of domain. So we see the raw logging. So this for forensic is really important. Just to make it for easy to view, I can just say define by asset. And we now see an easy overview. It's only into one system. It's only an IP address and what time it was. So asset definitely now it's with all the elements we see, it needs to be escalated to a critical or high, or let's say in a DORA term, a major incident. We'll switch back to the flow, and this will definitely needs to escalate it to our incident response analyst. So they are working in the same, we call it a SOC pod. So it's a current team together working, and they can always easily interact with each other. But the incident response analyst is definitely only if there's a breach, higher critical happening, they will jump in. They will collect all the forensic information, and also will start, we call it like a war room with a customer to tell what the current situation, what needs to be done to clear this part, and which systems has been affected. So to jump to my screen again back, I'm now looking to the screen what the incident responder is looking for. So it's a total different tool, but it's really powerful. And we're using there an open source tool. We are the owner of it, but it's also open source to the public. Everyone can use it. And we see also the big incident response firms in the world are using this tool because it's so powerful and quick to respond. And also it's the community helps to make better detections. That's I think one of the benefits of it. So what with this tool we can do? We have a list of all direct communications to our endpoints. So they are green, which means the systems are on, and we have any kind of correct connection right away. So we know the system was on number 4. And what we can do in here, we also even can dive into, let's see if it will do, to the disk. And let's refresh the screen. So let me try another one. So we also can now request access to the disk. So by just click on antivirus, now we get a command and we get down in the backend all the information of the endpoint. Let me try again the system I prepared. Yeah, there it is. It has already retrieved the data. So we can see all the files on the system itself. So for forensic, it's really important. And a really important thing is that if we download a file, it never changes the timestamp, because that's one of the important things for forensics. Don't change any timestamp information, because otherwise your forensic not value anymore. So what we can see in here is, for example, if you're going to the user directory, the administrator, documents, not very interesting, but let's go to, I think, the downloads. Let's see where it is. It is here. And now it's getting more interesting. So there's someone has downloaded a zip file which has the name PS ransomware. So it's definitely, it's clear in this example is a ransomware file. But yeah, just to make sure, also show what we can do in here is we also can collect the file from the agent and do an analyze on the file. So we can take it offline and analyze the file and then say, okay, yes, this definitely is a malicious file. So we know on this machine it's something what so many things we find out. But what normally our responder is doing, they're using called hunts. So they can just, with all the online systems, can ask questions and they reply back with information. So for this demonstration, I prepared 2 hunts. So to show how they create. So like a test hunt, and they just select the artifacts. It's community driven. So everyone in the world can write things in here and we'll publish into all our customers. So I did a DNS cache. But for example, if I want to see all the host file information, we can just ask the information and the endpoints reply back. At the moment, I see there's one system reply back, which is a DNS cache delivered. And with the notebook, you see so this one has been reached, being done before. As forensic side, we know it definitely happened the time we know what systems. So if there are multiple systems having connection to the system, you'll see there are more replying back. So now we know, yes, it has been made the connection. We see what kind of things it made more. But also, I did, as I saw earlier from the incident responder, for a threat intelligence analyst, I saw there as a link to CobbleStrike. Let's do a CobbleStrike investigation as well. And here we see now, there's definitely still an open connection with CobbleStrike, used by PowerShell, and the communication it's a trap, that monster.443. And this means there is now an active breach happening, and this is something we definitely need to contain right away. So, as we already discussed, when we already saw it on the TI list, we can already do steps and containment in there. But for this simulation, we just saw the entire flow. So what I will do in the next steps is that we is now going back to the MDR list, and we do the contain action. And what the MDR analyst will do. So in this case, let's go back to the investigation. And back to my assigned alarm. So we can do multiple things for containment. So we can do the containment based on the user. But in this case, I would not suggest to do containment on the user because it's something happening on the system itself. And we go for quarantine the asset. Okay, the asset means all the communications to any kind of outside except the Rapid7 platform will be blocked. And it is available for Windows, Linux, and Mac OS. And we can do the quarantine with our own agent, so inside agent. But if you already have any other kind of software running in there as well, it can be also used by Microsoft, SentinelOne, CrowdStrike, Cisco, Carbon Black, and so on. So that doesn't matter for our SOC. If we need to quarantine, one of those solutions is available.
So not only for the detection, Barry, or as well for to quarantine one machine, one user, you can do that with the other agents?
Yes, exactly. So
Okay.
the detection information is coming from there, but also the quarantine action. The reason why is that sometimes you see our user has not forgot to install our agent, or there's another agent better in this case to be used. We're happy to use it. At the end, for our SOC, the important thing is it needs to be take off the network, and that's all. And then we can do the further investigation to make more damage. So now the issue to for spreading the breach further in the network has been quarantined, let's say. But the next step is how to prevent more damage. So we went back to our threat intelligence analyst, and what we can do is also this domain is still active, and as long as it's active, it can make more people affected to this breach. So what we can do is different kind of options in here. We can report this domain to any block list, or we can do That's only internal. We'll also report this to the public, to Google and to Fish Tank. So it can be a low rating and will be blocked by your firewall, for example, by default quite soon. But there's a time between. But to the real remediation, we can also take down the domain or the website. So what we're doing is we contact from Rapid7 the company hosting this website and say we have proven evidence that it's malicious activity. And with the proof that we collected already during the investigation, they will take down the website or domain. And it's something what happened quite often within 1 or 2 days. It will not always happen, so there's a rate of around 90%. It depends when we have to deal. So, for example, if there's a country not operating with us, sometimes it's more complex to get this done. But it quite often happens very soon. This can be for websites, but also for social media posts or social media accounts, which are maybe duplicating. So when we do the takedown, filling information, what we'll do, and then in progress, and this will be also tracked in here with our remediations, if we exceeding our SLA for this one is not. So let's say this is now removed from the internet, so it's fully cleared up. No one else can be harmed at the moment, so that is really nice. So the next step is, if you go back to the flow, and that's really important. We have collected all the information, and we can go to the next slide, is that we also show information in the report, but let's stick to first this one as well. So we saw in our demonstration, the tool to collect all the data is called Inside IDR. And we're collecting all the data from the endpoints, from cloud data, from third-party technical data partners, SaaS application. And we enrich the data with our own intelligence from Rapid7, but also from external. So we don't stick it to our own intelligence, the better the more. And the data will be sent to the platform. And for Europe, it will be always stays in AWS Frankfurt. And there's no synchronization to other regions. So that's our region we use for Europe. And those data will be used to do the machine learning, AI stuff, and then based on all telemetry we're collecting, it's fire alarms.
So one question on that, the Inside IDR, is it both a service that you sell, I mean a solution that you sell and used by your service, or is it separated?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So it's a solution we sell for our customers, so as a standalone product. But also, it's also is using it for, if you buy our MDR service, they're using the IDR as well. And you get full access to the product. So if you're using product standalone, the same, but if you're using it with our managed service on top of that, you can still the full visibility and full control to the product.
So, okay, you can follow up all the steps and interact as well with the SOC on the tool?
Yes, exactly, yeah. You can chat and also see what we are doing. And also what's important to know is that there's no data ingestion limit. So in our offering, so we're not the license consumed based on the amount of assets, and we don't. So we always say the more data you can send to our platform, the better it is, but that doesn't have any effect on the license cost.
Okay.
Then part of it also is included unlimited incident response. So if you need to help with a breach, we always help you, and there's no extra cost for it. And I see also a question coming in, what's the retention period of all the information? I think that's a really important one for the DORA or all the regulations for ISO as well. It's 13 months, so it's always 1 year plus 1 month for data retention. So we can comply to those kind of regulations. So we can move to the next slide.
Yeah, in the meantime, I see a question on the CSSF. Yeah, because, and that's true, the CSF in a couple of events complained that they are not receiving enough notification. I think in the first quarter, they were claiming that they are receiving like 50 50 major incident, something like that. So why is that? For me, there are two answers. The first one is that a lot of organizations are not equipped with solutions to really detect in time or simply detect the incidents. So if they are not aware, of course, like for data breach, you can have a data breach and you don't know, or they are not ready to notify. They don't have the process, they don't have the forms and so on ready to notify in time. So they prefer not to notify, to take the risk that receiving a fine because they don't notify. And this is critical for me. I think organization needs to notify a lot more, because one day, and I think soon, because CSF is talking about that, they will come back to organizations, say, are you ready to notify? Did you notify? And show me the mechanisms you have to be able to do so. Sorry to interrupt, Barry.
Oh, no worries. It's good to have more interacting with all the questions. So if questions, please jump in and ask them. So we earlier talked also about Rapid7. It's an open source tool. So the developer of Rapid7, I say I can join Rapid7, but the software needs to be open source always. I think that's a good way also to help other customers instead of asking money for it.
Okay.
So yeah, it's quite famous. So if you look most of the time after ransomware reports, the breach reports, you see this is widely used tool just to do all the investigations. And take to the next one. So the flow again, but I think we're now at the flow that we're going to the reporting part, so lessons learned. I put in just like this an example report. If needed, this can be downloaded as well from our website, or just reach out to us if you need this example report more in detail. What you see, this report is definitely helping you to comply to the DORA, to the final understanding what's the cause of the issue, what's the harm, what's the financial impact possible. And this can also be used in court, definitely, if needed. So that detail, so every detail what we collect during the steps will be right in this report. And as soon as this report has been delivered, it's almost within a few days after the breach has been discovered. So we try to make it as soon as possible available. And see, also another question is that this tool is only the tool you sell or all the service? It's both. So we are a company that's selling the applications, so we develop it ourselves. But also we can, on top of that, you can use our services if you don't have a stock yourself.
Okay, so there is a question on Velociraptor, and I was wondering as well. So when you have an incident, do you need, the Velociraptor installed, deployed on the endpoints beforehand, or you can use it after, for the forensic? How is it working?
That's a really good question, because that's so normally if it's for an incident responder, you need if you have something happen in your company, you don't have an incident responder right away. You need to call, or it's called a retainer. You need to find someone to help you. And the first step they do is to deploy all the agents for Rapid7 or any kind of other tool to do the similar thing. But as Rapid7 is part of our own agent, it's already one active. So we don't have to deploy, and it also saves 1 or 2 days time during an incident. So we can directly start with our forensic part. So it will just save 1 or 2 days, we see in most customers.
Okay,
so it's a really important benefit. It is.
Yeah, we was blocked for a second.
No worries.
So do you have something to add, Barry?
Maybe just something to add. So today we talked about detection response. So next time we do more on the risk side. What we see is that currently that the DORA is really a driver just to customers in the financial sector to look up this kind of tools or services they would like to have to comply to DORA. So if there are any more questions, feel out to reach out to Jean-Hubert or to me and see where we can help you.
Yeah, indeed. So don't hesitate to reach out to us or Edgar Le Crypteur, you know. There will be a recording of this session, so you stay tuned. The recording will be available. So next month, to repeat, on the 10th of June, we will have a similar webinar on the testing pillar, so the testing program, how to build the program, you know, and what kind of tools you could use as well to perform the test. So testing is really a new requirement on DORA, and I think there are a lot of as well organizations that are not yet compliant to this pillar. So stay tuned, and I think that's it. Yeah, I would like to thank all of you for joining, and I wish you a very nice day, a nice trip, a nice journey, I would say, to comply to DORA. So thanks a lot, Barry, for your nice demo, and
Thank you very much for being here.
see you next time.
See you all next time and have a nice day.
Have a nice day.